Hello everyone, it's Theme Park Avenue, I'm Eric. Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio is known as the roller coaster capital of the world. It has caught the eye of several theme park fanatics, especially roller coaster enthusiasts. The park tends to receive over 3.5 million visitors a year, and is considered by many to be the best amusement park in the world. It is loved for its exhilarating roller coasters, beautiful setting, and lively atmosphere. Or at least, it was considered the best by many in 2021. This year, many of the coaster enthusiasts who praise the park now talk about how it is going downhill. My most recent visits to the park were in 2021, and I loved it. That said, I could see that there were some cracks showing in regards to crowd management based on the Fastlane prices being over $275. I still loved the park, and all my visits were great, and I would call it my personal favorite amusement park. From what I hear now, I should be glad I didn't visit this year. The park is certainly still popular, but there are several people who once loved the park that now feel it is not worth visiting. So what caused this wave of negative reviews to come to Cedar Point this year? There are a number of factors, and we'll be examining those today, along with whether or not I think they justify Cedar Point losing respect amongst roller coaster enthusiasts. The hate towards Cedar Point really began with an event that happened last year. On August 15th, 2021, Thrill Dragster, the park's fastest roller coaster, was running the way it always did when it was open. However, a metal piece known as a proximity flag plate flew off one of the cars during the ride cycle, hitting and injuring a woman waiting in line. This incident led to the closure of Thrill Dragster for the remainder of the 2021 season. Soon after, it was announced that Thrill Dragster would be closed for the entirety of the 2022 season. This ride was one of the most popular and most beloved rides in the park. Several called Thrill Dragster their favorite roller coaster in the world. And it was definitely a main draw for coaster enthusiasts planning a trip to Cedar Point. I can certainly see why many would be angry if they couldn't experience the top attraction of the park. And I know the feeling. I'm certain that the combination of Dragster being closed and Wicked Twister, another launch coaster, being removed has made the park's lineup seem a bit more incomplete. One launch coaster in Maverick is still great to have, but Darien Lake has one launch coaster. Losing two roller coasters did undeniably take away from the park's quality for many. Some now believe that other popular amusement parks such as Hershey Park and Six Flags Magic Mountain have superior roller coaster lineups. I disagree, and I think that even without Dragster, Cedar Point has the strongest roller coaster collection I've experienced. Nonetheless, the fact that Dragster was closed for all of last year not only meant people who were excited to experience it did not get to, but a ride that kept over 1,000 people in line every hour was not able to keep crowds from filling other areas of the park. This leads into the next major complaint enthusiasts have with Cedar Point this year: the lines. Cedar Point has gained immense popularity, especially after Seal Vengeance brought in adrenaline junkies from around the world. Sadly, it seems the park was not entirely prepared to accommodate large crowds. On nearly every day of the year, several prominent attractions have tremendous wait times. Seal Vengeance is frequently a 2-hour wait, Maverick is often over an hour, Valraven typically gets 90 minutes, and Millennium Force gets above 45-minute waits. And even rides such as the Power Tower can get similar wait times. Summer weekends are the worst, with many rides having waits up to 3 hours. That said, pretty much every day at the park is slammed. From Mondays in spring to Fridays in autumn, these waits are practically unavoidable for even the most strategic planners. I have found that, at least last year, there were some days where there was short lines at even rides like Steel Vengeance, so you can avoid the crowds by going on Friday Halloween weekends. This is a good idea because you will be able to get on the rides, but unfortunately it's a bit of an opportunity cost. While no lines are forming for the roller coasters, lines for haunts are all over 2 hours. So if you want to enjoy the Halloween festivities, you can't really do that and have the roller coasters. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. It is far more difficult to plan a day at Cedar Point where you experience every major ride, compared to other thrilling parks such as Six Flags Great Adventure and Kings Island. Despite there clearly being long lines for major attractions at the park, I can't help but feel that this complaint is a bit overblown. Yes, there are some major rides that require a lot of patience to get on, but there are also around 50 rides that have virtually no wait throughout the day. And many of these are excellent, including Snake River Expedition, Gemini, and even sometimes Magnum XL 200. Furthermore, the park is maintained very long summer hours. The park is open from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. on many summer days, and even after summer you may get 11 to 12 hours of the park being open, assuming you stay all day. This will definitely be enough to experience most of the major rides at least once each. While I understand that having to wait for a lot of rides for boarding is frustrating, it is worth it to ride the park's legendary roller coasters. That said, the Disney level congestion and the lack of room to expand has made getting into the park a hassle on weekends, as backups on the road can get all the way past the peninsula the park sits on. This can certainly sour a person's day, and if their goal is to efficiently experience all the park and as much as possible, there may be issues. Fortunately, Cedar Point has fantastic ride operators that keep the line moving. Or, at least, they did. For this next point, I am somewhat grasping at straws. I am basing it off of some comments on videos I've seen about Cedar Point, and some of those videos as well. But it seems to be a point that is harder to get behind overall. Some have complained that the ride operators at Cedar Point this year have been quite slow and inefficient, especially when compared to previous years. In the past, Cedar Point has been praised for its quick dispatches of roller coaster trains that now all have excellent hourly capacity. This year, it has been said by some that lines move much slower than normal, and this has amplified the line issue as a whole. This problem can certainly dampen an amusement park's experience. I know that when I go to a park and I wait for over 5 minutes between trains, turning what could be a 20-minute wait into a 45 to 60-minute one, I get a bit upset, and my opinion on the park is hurt a little bit. Most say Kings Island operations are far superior this year. But one important thing to realize about Cedar Point is that, like many amusement parks, it has a very different staff each year. Most staff members are quite young, and they are working for the park as a summer job, and it's very likely they will not work there again. Some do stay for a pretty long time. For example, I believe YouTuber Coaster College worked there for many years and probably still does work there, doing a great job at Magnum, I'm sure. But most employees working at the park are probably working at Cedar Point for the first time, and possibly for the last time. This means the reason for slower operations is probably correlated with the staff's inexperience. So why this wasn't an issue in previous years, I'm not sure. This is not meant to insult any current staff members of the park, especially when I did not experience any operation issues firsthand. Last year there were very few I experienced at all, but this is simply meant to imply that the people who felt that operations were poor this year may have just been unlucky with when they went and who was working the rides at certain times. Granted, next year's staff will probably be a very different group of workers, and based on the park's focus right now, I am sure they will hire very qualified individuals for 2023. There are other minor criticisms that are only possessed by a few individuals that don't seem as prevalent in online discourse. Some don't like the food of the park, some think there are too many rough rides like Magnum and Rougarou. Some coaster enthusiasts are underwhelmed by rides like Gatekeeper, Valraven, and Millennium Force. And all of these issues can be more than enough for a select few to call the park overrated and not the best. That said, the bigger issues are the fact that major attractions were unavailable this year, the operations not being at their best, and the park struggling to manage crowds, leading to inflated ticket prices and fast lane prices. These are the main reasons enthusiasts cite for justifying a negative review of Cedar Point. But this all circles back to one main reason, and that is the fact that these nitpicks may not bother guests as much had they not expected the perfect visit to the park. Hype can definitely affect how one feels about anything. For amusement parks, one might expect to have the time of their life at Cedar Point because of its reputation. If minor factors make the day worse, the park being deemed overrated could make it seem worse than it really is for any visitor. I know that the hype train has influenced opinions at Cedar Point before. In 2020, there was quite a following of people who hated on Steel Vengeance, primarily because it wasn't the best roller coaster for them, like many have said. And even my own opinions in some parks have been influenced by hype. I have gone into rides such as El Toro, Sky Rush, and X2, expecting them to be the best, or at least some of the best. But I came off each one somewhat disappointed for different reasons. That said, I don't think the hype magnified the flaws quite as much as it seems to for Cedar Point overall. The disappointment amongst enthusiasts continued with the 2023 announcements. The only news on Thrill Dragster reopening was a sort of hint at it, mentioning that there would be 18 roller coasters in the park. The next roller coaster announced is a spinning Wild Mouse. and a restaurant is the primary focus of the new expansion. Most understand that this is a good investment from a business perspective, but this being the next major update to the park coming off the heels of Steel Vengeance has furthered the hate that's thrown at Cedar Point. Many still love Cedar Point, and there are not that many that say it's terrible. Very few even say it's below average. However, saying that Cedar Point is not the roller coaster capital of the world anymore, or that it is an overrated park, is not an unpopular opinion to have. The downfall has ultimately been in the eye of the beholder, and the park is financially not failing per se. It definitely isn't as beloved as it was just a few years back. Maybe with future changes and additions, Cedar Point will regain its crown. I think it will because of how wonderful the park has been, and still is in my eyes, based on last year. And how much Cedar Fair has tried to keep the park at the forefront of the industry, I'm sure it will definitely bounce back. Perhaps the focus on other parks in the Cedar Fair chain, such as Kings Island, Kings Dominion, and even Worlds of Fun, has been the main reason why less money has gone into Cedar Point in the last few years, especially last year, and this year as well. But if Thrill Dragster opens as expected, and a major attraction comes in around 2025, the park could emerge from its downfall amongst enthusiasts and once again be loved by all. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this sort of mini documentary thing on why Cedar Point's downfall has emerged. Do keep in mind it is not me hating on Cedar Point. I'm just citing some points that have been brought up and trying to understand why Cedar Point has been deemed going downhill. Subscribe for more theme park content. I'll see you next time.